Hey there and welcome back to Rimworld. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of our Rimworld Ice Sheet Survival series. Before we jump in, however, I have an announcement to make. Friday, March 1st marks the 3-year anniversary of Pete Complete. On March 1st, 2016 I uploaded my very first video to the channel, and well, the last 3 years have been one hell of a ride. Now, to celebrate the occasion, I will once again release a very special video on Friday, the first episode of a brand new series to be exact. Over the last few weeks I have been working pretty hard on this, while also keeping the Mass Effect and Rimworld series going, but I'm happy to announce that we will embark on a new adventure in just a few days. So mark your calendars and check in with the channel on Friday to see what we're playing next. For now though, let's play some Rimworld. Last time we left off after recruiting colonist number 5 in Nathan, who immediately showed off his skills on the fields and with a gun, and also after defeating a rather sizable group of fennec foxes. I also asked you what you think about doing another quest, and maybe more importantly, what you think about slowly bringing this series to a conclusion by building a spaceship. Now, your answers regarding the quest were a bit mixed, but I saw a ton of support for the idea to kind of begin the endgame, so to speak, so over the next few episodes that is what we will slowly transition into. To start us off, we now have an exotic goods trader in orbit, so let's see what they have for sale. They have 3 advanced components to offer and we'll gladly take them all. We need a lot more than what we currently have if we ever want to construct the ship. We can pay for the components by selling the harvested kidney, lung and heart from a few episodes ago, and we can throw in 2 thrombo horns as well as one of Giraffe's granite sculptures to make a nice profit from the exchange. Now, as you can see, the trader has some pretty high-level bionic body parts for sale, but at the moment we sadly cannot really afford those, so instead we'll settle for some gold. We need gold for the ship computer core and to manufacture more advanced components, so even though it's quite pricey, we'll buy 50 units. That still leaves us with a solid profit, and with all the goods hauled into the storage room, we can begin constructing a single drop pod. I will tell you in a moment why we're doing this, but it does involve another quest we obtained a few episodes ago. For the moment though, Giraffe finishes an excellent quality sculpture featuring a portrayal of lawyers and chemists eating turnips, and I think that should fetch us a good price. And yes, I completely forgot about the trade ship. We could have sold the thing right here instead of storing it away. Now, Cambia has returned to the research bench, where he is still busy researching bionics. The project is roughly halfway finished, so the tech-proof sub-persona core we could obtain via trade from our neighbors is probably not really needed anymore, which was also one of the main arguments against this quest. Speaking of quests, time to get back to that drop pod now. We will load the pod with Cambia, since he is one of the few guys with a high enough construction skill to make a new one at his destination, and we'll give him 2 simple meals, exactly 16 units worth of chem fuel and 3 components for the return trip, and just in case things go bad, some medicine can't hurt either. However, I am fairly certain he will get in and out without a scratch, and here's why. The quest we're looking at is this one on the world map. A Resurrector mech serum is waiting for us, and it is guarded by 2 sleeping mechanoids. Now, sleeping is the all-important word here, which means that the enemies will not attack us unless we wake them up. To just get the item, however, we probably won't have to do that, so if all goes according to my plan, we can obtain one of the most expensive items in the entire game pretty much for free. First of all, we'll have Cambia collect all the items he brought with him, before we then look for the 2 mechanoids. And here they are, sleeping right next to a very suspicious building, and if I had to put money on it, I'd say that is where we'll find the serum. Since the mechs are asleep, we can calmly stroll by, and then simply deconstruct the wall into the building, which, as expected, reveals the serum inside. Now it's ours, and the next challenge is to get back home. We did not bring any steel because there is almost always some on the map, and Cambia also has enough food to make the return trip on foot. Luckily though, he doesn't have to, as there is a nice big steel building to the south. Deconstructing the walls and floors yields almost 300 units of steel, more than twice the amount we need, so let's construct a launcher and a pod and get out of here. We will of course take as much steel as we can with us. We can always use some for various projects around the base, including the spaceship of course. Speaking of steel, our steel storage room is now getting a small upgrade. If we really want to construct the ship and build a few additional defenses, we will have to increase our steel production by quite a bit, and creating more storage space is a good first step. While Antonio is digging, Giraffe finishes another sculpture, this one only of normal quality, but showing an image of Cobra trying to light a fire while both sweating and shivering. Well, we'll once again put that in the stockpile for selling, and just as the new steel stockpile has been completed, we have trouble arrive. A poison ship has landed right next to our base, and even though there are no plants in the immediate vicinity, we still want to get rid of the threat right away. Since the ship is close to the base though, we don't have to fire the mortar just yet. Instead, we can send Nathan and his sniper rifle over to activate whatever is hiding inside. 5 mechanoids jump out and we immediately pull Nathan back into the base and prepare for the attack. Our animals will get locked in for the moment while Cobra builds a small funnel near the entrance to the base to make our turrets a bit more efficient. We can take our time here though, the mechanoids will only attack if we continue to damage the ship, otherwise they will remain where they are. With the small wall constructed, we can tell Giraffe to man the mortar, because now we want the mechanoids to come to us. It takes a while though and requires a switch over to Cobra until the shot finally hits the target, but now the mechanoids are on the move. That means we activate our turrets and get everyone into a firing position. The mechs will run past all the traps because I don't want to lose any, and we should be able to handle them this way easily. The small corridor now causes the mechs to enter the base proper and puts them at the mercy of 5 turrets and 4 colonists, who all make quick work of the enemies. Had we not constructed that small bit of wall, the 2 turrets on the left could have fired into the trapped area, very likely pinning down enemies for a straight shootout, leaving the rest of the turrets and the colonists unable to intervene. This way, however, 4 of the 5 mechanoids go down in just a few seconds, while number 5 is hacking away at a turret, but ultimately gets killed before the turret is destroyed. To get rid of the danger once and for all, we can now send Cambia over to the ship to shoot it to bits and pieces, which yields a nice drop of steel, plasteel and components, including another advanced component. Inside of the base, our colonists have already finished a few minor repairs, and so we're now almost ready for a rather lengthy project that will see us upgrade our interior defenses. Before we can get to that, however, we have to send Nathan out to hunt. A lynx has wandered onto the map, and sooner or later she will get hungry and probably attack our huskies, or even worse, one of our colonists. The first shots with the sniper rifle go wide though, and now the lynx is in attack mode. However, one-on-one in close combat, that is not exactly an ideal situation for Nathan, so we'll have Giraffe come to the rescue while the huskies briefly retreat. With the lynx on his heels, Nathan now plays the bait, and we can only hope that Giraffe does not accidentally hit him instead of the animal. She shows a steady hand though and lands the all-important first hit, slowing the lynx down and allowing Nathan to gain some distance. The next few volleys hit as well, and eventually the lynx goes down and we can get back to business. And that business consists of some slaughtering for Giraffe, just to make room in the corpse storage, while the main project is happening on the east side of the base, where we are currently constructing a sizable defensive upgrade. This side of the base is rather poorly protected, and a group of sappers would have no troubles getting through, which could have catastrophic consequences. For that reason, we are constructing another trapped corridor here, enough to take out at least a medium-sized group of attackers. That project takes a while to finish, but luckily we don't have any problems in the meantime, so we can skip ahead a bit and watch Cobra complete the construction of the last remaining trap. Those traps did cost us quite a lot of steel though, so before we continue with the next step, we'll have Cobra smelt some more. We definitely have enough slag chunks for a lengthy smelting session. In the meantime, Antonio and Cambia can do some mining, once again over on the other side of the base. We are eventually going to put up a few turrets here, and for that we need a bit of space to stretch the setup out for maximum coverage. Once the area is cleared, we can then begin construction. First of all, we will put up a wall that stretches all the way across this open area. We will also protect our geothermal generator a bit more, just to make it harder to attack and to keep it safe from any stray bullets or explosions. While all of that is going on, Cambia finishes his current research project, and so we now have access to bionics and can craft bionic body parts at the fabrication bench. They do require advanced components though, so we will not jump into that right away. Instead, let's finish our ongoing work first. Unfortunately, the wall we are currently building is blocking the wind turbine, so we are better off deconstructing it. It would have gotten caught in the crossfire anyway, and with 4 chem fuel generators and more than enough material to make more chem fuel, I think we should not have any power problems going forward. Now, the wall itself is of course not going to offer too much protection, so let's put some turrets down. Once again, we are using plasteel turrets here, because they have roughly 3 times the hit points of a regular steel turret, and this right here might be a crucial point in our defenses going forward, so it's best not to skimp on materials. While those materials are being hauled over to the construction site, we have a transport pod crash down on the ice sheet. Inside, we can find the 59-year-old Steadily, a pirate from the Falcon Man faction. She is rather skilled with plants and animals and has solid traits as well, especially the great memory trait is extremely useful. However, we don't really need another colonist at this point. To be honest, recruiting number 5 was already a bit of a risk, because raids scale with the number of colonists you have, and especially since we're trying to get to the spaceship soon, I don't think we need to make our journey harder than it needs to be. Not to mention that Steadily is also suffering from several injuries and illnesses, so I think we'll just let her stay right where she landed. With the first turret constructed, we now have 3 more to go, but thanks to the combined efforts of Cambia and Antonio, they are quickly finished. Antonio has also mined out another section of rock on the right side, otherwise the turret over there would not be all too useful. Now, the main reason for building these turrets the way we did is that they can now fire at both sides of the wall. This is very important to protect us against drop pod attacks, which I suspect should start to happen any day now. Therefore, sandbags will be put up to protect the turrets from both sides. As you can see, I have also left a slightly larger gap around the door in the middle, which is now perfectly suited for 2 colonists to hide behind the door and fire through. Once again, this works for both sides, and we could even send a small squad through our hydroponics farm in order to shoot the enemies in the back from the hospital. So we certainly have a lot of flexibility here, however, I'm afraid we'll need it soon enough. While we're ordering the area to be roofed over, we have a cargo drop right next to the crashed pirate. The pod only contains 8 units of wake up, but of course we'll haul those back and hopefully turn them into silver when the next trader arrives. Our new defenses are now almost finished, however one thing still missing is a switch to turn the turrets on and off. The turrets don't consume a ton of electricity, and I might later decide to leave them on permanently, but for now we don't need them active all the time, so let's put them all on a switch next to the wind turbine. And here we are, the switch is flicked off and the turrets deactivate, and with that our building project is almost finished. Almost, because there is still a small corner where enemies could find cover over here, and the way into the hospital is also not too heavily protected at the moment. So let's reinforce the walls over there to create a nice smooth rectangle without any corners. Should we once again decide to use the hospital as a prison, this also makes the room a lot harder to escape from. Now, as you can see, our rather sizable herd of animals has eaten all of their pemmican, so it's time for Cobra to make a new batch. While that happens, we send Giraffe over to the smelter to make more steel, and as the morning rolls around, we find her in the usual spot, making another sculpture. Cambia, meanwhile, runs over to the fabrication bench, not to make bionic body parts, but to manufacture a few more advanced components. We have about 1/3 of the amount we need to construct the spaceship, and we could even begin the construction of the first few parts already, but I'd like to keep the building process as short as possible, so we'll stock up on materials first and build later. And that is really all that happens for the remainder of the day, until in the evening we are once again improving our defensive setup. The one mortar has served us well so far, but we also haven't had a mortar siege against us yet, and more firepower is never a bad thing in this game. So let's make some room, get rid of a small roof section, and put up a second mortar. Now, in hindsight, we probably didn't have to go for the plasteel version. The risk of anyone getting this far to attack the mortar is relatively slim, but in the grand scheme of things it won't hurt us too much. Just as mortar number 2 is finished, we have another cargo drop, and this time we receive 70 unfertilized chicken eggs. And while we have more than enough food to last us the better part of a year or so, we don't want to grow complacent, so let's haul them back to the base. In the base, we are once again making more steel with Giraffe, while Cobra extends our newly constructed defenses a bit more. This small funnel here makes sure that all enemies exit with the maximum amount of distance to the turrets, which makes it harder for attackers to reach the guns and destroy them. Admittedly, the turret on the right does not have an ideal angle now, but I'm sure it will still see plenty of enemies. Now, you just saw Antonio walk by, and he is on his way to gather a precious resource. I had my eye on this plasteel vein for a while now, and since Antonio is well rested and just had something to eat, we can make the long trip over to the other side of the map. Plasteel is another resource that we need a lot of to eventually build the spaceship, but this vein alone might supply us with more than half of what we need, so I'm not too worried. Shortly after, Cambia also joins the party, and the vein indeed appears to be quite large, so with 40 plasteel in each block, we might even get all of these 740 units we need for the ship right here. Later in the evening then, it's time for another cargo drop, and this one is absolutely perfect for our needs. 17 units of gold, that is enough for 5 advanced components, so we'll mark it to be hauled back, no question about it. Now, Antonio and Cambia are not the only ones working on the plasteel supply. Giraffe is also doing her part by disassembling the mechanoids that attacked us earlier in the episode. Cobra is also smelting more steel, so it's safe to say that resource production is our #1 priority at the moment, but we also have good reasons for it. In the early morning hours then, we witness a freak accident. Despite an incredibly small chance for it to happen, Nathan has triggered one of our own traps, and since he isn't too heavily protected, he goes down immediately with numerous severe injuries. Time for Dr. Giraffe to do her work and for the hospital to serve its purpose. With Nathan hauled back to the medical bed, Giraffe immediately begins treating his wounds, and it doesn't take long to stabilize our latest recruit. Only a few hours later then, we receive the message that Nathan can walk again, but we won't risk anything here and will let him rest until he is fully healed again. Cambia can now take the safe path to the fox corpse that Nathan was going for, and with it safely stored away, we are approaching the end of today's episode. As you can see at the bottom right of your screen, we are just a few hours away from the next winter out here on the ice sheet, and I think that is a very good point to make the cut. Our base has become a lot more secure in today's episode, and I hope the improvements pay off. For a start, Nathan already showed us that the traps work just fine. In the next episode, we will probably be able to plant some heal root for the first time, as both Antonio and Nathan are quickly approaching level 8 in the planting skill. And of course, I'm also always open for your ideas on how we could improve and fortify the base further. So leave those in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the episode, then I would be happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support the channel further, then feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, or you can also support the Pete Complete Patreon. Also, don't forget to check in on Friday for the start of a brand new series. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.